Hey folks, thank you for joining us again for another exciting episode of YOML. This is the Year of Magical Learning podcast. So today we're on Reflection 282, which happens to be the last part of the book Linchpin. And this is, part 3 of 3. So take it away.
Yeah. So if you haven't joined us for part 1 or 2 of Linchpin, this book is
You should.
it's
It's
you
a great
should.
book.
It's a very good book. It's by the author Seth Godin, and it's about at the highest level, it's about bringing your unique art to the workplace and becoming indispensable in the process. When you do what you love and you bring your unique self out, and in the process, you become unique and you stand out and you become indispensable, and you do what you love and you solve problems in the process and you help other people. And it's awesome. It's fun. It's rewarding. It's fulfilling. It's meaningful. So that's what we care about.
It's the way it's supposed to be.
It's the way it's supposed to be. Exactly. So this is the third part, reflection. So part 1 was about the message from the universe of how we even found Linchpin. Part 2 is about the most amazing artist that I've ever known, which was my daughter. And then part 3 is about how to become a practicing artist. So like I started off this reflection by saying, like, over the past, when I wrote this is almost a year ago now. What the hell? Just said something can't be displayed. Where'd it go? What just happened? Did we just lose our whole blog, or like did my internet just go out? I don't know. Can you can still hear me, right?
I can hear you. Yep.
Oh, that's weird. All right, we'll have to just go from the hip here. So over the past 2.5 years, or that was when I wrote we're 3.5 years now into this. I feel like I've exactly when that transition, after I lost Amelia, started to happen. But I know at some point in time through this whole entire process and through YOML and through, what the hell? Oh, there you go. Oh, I was gonna say my screen just went black.
Sorry, I took over.
No, thank you. Yeah, so through YOML, through whatever, right? Like through this whole entire process, like there was some transition at some point in time where I went from, not being a practicing artist to a practicing artist every single day. I don't know when it was, but I know I can feel it in my bones that I'm a practicing artist every single day now, and I don't like, and that makes me proud to say, to be honest with you. So if you can scroll down a little bit, that'd be awesome. So it made me start to, like, this concept made me start to reflect a little bit on my past life, before my daughter, before I learned what a real artist looked like, and before I learned how to do this, and how to become an artist myself. I started to think about, like, there's been moments in time throughout my life where when I've created some pretty magical things, when I've been I've made art, but I wasn't an artist. One of the examples I put in here was when I was 22 years old and I was in my first job right out of school. My job was to be, my role was called the management trainee was my title. And my job was to spend 2.5 years going through 10-week assignments, where I would go into like 10 functional different departments within the organization. So like I'd be in purchasing for 1 10-week stint, and I would be in sales and marketing for 1 10-week stint. I'd be in frontline supervision on the plant floor for 1 stint. I'd be in like shipping and receiving at a plant for another stint. I'd be in quality assurance. I'd be in whatever, engineering, like all different areas of the business across the board, whether they be at the corporate offices or whether they be out in like the actual production floor in the plant. I worked for a manufacturer, and it was fun. It was a really fun job. So my job was to do these like 10-week rotations where I was supposed to learn. Then I was supposed to see, observe. I'm supposed to learn about these departments, and I'm supposed to observe and get my hands dirty a little bit at the same time, and then do about a couple weeks in or something like that. I was supposed to like pick a continuous improvement, like Six Sigma style project to go present to the VP of that department and say, this is what I want to do for the my time in this department to work on a project, and then I would go report that project to the board, I reported to our VP of HR. So I'd go report to her and the president of the company and, whatever, all the other executive team members at the end of each 10-week stint, and I would move on to the next one. Well, one of my rotations, I was in this area of the business called the order entry department at one of the plants at this company. And like, this was the most insane, chaotic environment I've ever seen. You think order entry, right? Like, what does that sound like to you?
Order entries, just a lot of data and manual work.
Yeah, I mean, you're taking orders from people and you're putting it into our ERP system, right? I mean, isn't that what you would think order entry would do?
Yep. That's the image I get.
That's not what this team did. So it was a team of incredibly undertrained people that had learned insane amount of knowledge. What this department had become was a de facto like call center for troubleshooting on like engineering specs and things like that. So like customers would call into these people and they were like, I need to order, what do I need to order? I don't know. Like, I have this spec, and I need to do this, I need to do that. Like, they were doing like engineering, like, like going through engineering drawings and blueprints and whatever, and giving people information. And like, it was wild. It wasn't just they shipped a fax in and they would just type it into the computer what the order entry was. It was like they were full on, troubleshooting as like an engineer, basically.
A sales engineer.
They were a sales engineer, yeah, and they were telling them what to buy, what not to buy, and then they were plugging it into the computer. And it was a team of like 5 women that were very, maybe almost all of them were college or high school educated. And I don't know if any of them had a college degree. They had been this job like had become so crazy because they became a call center. They were literally people would call into the plant all day long and they would get just shipped to the order entry department. And like they were just sitting next to their phones all day long, fielding calls. They didn't know when there was going to be calls or not, but they were on the phone all day long, all of them. So I'm sitting in this room and I'm observing all this, and I'm like, this is crazy. I was like, this is like, you guys, like, how do you know what you're doing, and how do you like how are you guys doing this stuff? Like, they never could leave their desks. Like, they were so damn busy. I was like, how do you organize any of this stuff? The supervisor of this department, on her desk, her name was Denise. She was like the nicest lady ever. She had like stacks of paper that were over her head, like on her desk all day long. That like, I mean, it was insane. This department was insane. So I said, after like 2 weeks in this department, I was like, I want to do this. I was like, I want to see how hard this is and get my hands dirty or whatever. So I jumped in on a terminal and I was like plugged in, and I'm like, send me whatever calls you want to send me. So I was like, I'm not, no joke. I did this for like 2 weeks straight. At the end of every day, I was so mentally exhausted and physically exhausted that I was like, I've never probably worked harder in my life. And I was like, this is insane. Like, you couldn't get up from your desk. You couldn't go to the bathroom. You like the work was cognitively demanding, but it was like rapid fire cognitively demanding, like, and you're like, oh my fucking God, man. So after 2 weeks in this department, and doing this job myself, I was like, this has got to get fixed. Like, I was like, I can't just sit by and watch this, So I went to the supervisor of their team, Denise, and I went to the plant manager, and I was like, I think I know what I want to do for my project for your guys' team. I was like, I'm going to fix this whole entire fucking department. I'm going to turn this into a call center, because there wasn't a call center. I was like, but I'm going to turn this into an operational center where people can understand what they need to do. We'll route the calls to the right places. We'll get people the knowledge they need. The people that are better at this area, we'll make sure the calls are going to them. We'll make sure that there's like a queue. We'll make sure. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I was 22 years old. I didn't know how to do any of this stuff. And I put together like all these different like workflows and all these different like, like how the operational flow should go with from an inbound call to like whatever, yada, yada, yada. I put together all these like charts and graphs and whatever, presented to the plant manager, and he was like, this is great. And he goes, well, how are we going to do this? And I go, I don't know. So I just started getting on the internet and started researching this stuff. And this is way before like, like SaaS products were out there. I found this company in Canada that was like a really early on, cloud-based VoIP provider, and ended up actually getting them to buy this system and going through the whole implementation process. And I decided to extend my time in this department from like 10 weeks to 2 rotations. So I ended up doing 20 weeks in there. And long story short, we got the entire department, turned it into a full-on call center, got everything like, workflows all built out, like routed everything, yada, 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 trained the employees and like, went through all that kind of process. And then we launched it. And I shit you not, there was obviously these people had been doing this job for a very long time. So they were very apprehensive, and they weren't really technologically savvy, to be honest with you. So like they were very apprehensive of the technology. They were very apprehensive of just some 22-year-old coming in there and like redesigning their workspace and stations. I redesigned their workstations, to like make it easier for them to get to the stuff they needed to get to, because they were like falling all over each other. And like I redesigned the entire office flow. And anyway, so after about the first week of doing this, a few glitches here and there at the beginning of it, this one lady comes to me at the end of the first week, and she goes, Chris, I was a little skeptical at first when you said you wanted to do all this stuff for us, but she goes, I just wanted to let you know, like, this is the first time, and I've been in this department for 10 years. This is the first time in 10 years that I've been able to take a full lunch, to go sit down and actually eat my food and not have to worry about it. And like being tied to my phone or whatever, being able to go to the bathroom when I want to go to the bathroom. And I was like, honestly, like that was like one of the coolest experiences I've ever had in my entire life, kind of thing. But then it was over, right? Then I moved on to my next rotation, and like that was an example of me being able to bring my art into the world, but I wasn't an artist yet, like this wasn't me being able to do that every single day. So I share that story to say there's a big difference between being someone that produces art and being an artist, right? And to be an artist, you have to bring your art in the world every single day, in my opinion. Like, I mean, that's how I define an artist, is if somebody is able to bring their art into the world every single day with what they do. Anyway, so now the question becomes, okay, great, how do you do that? This is, I don't know anything, but here's my guide to what I feel like this should be. So step one is know your values, right? This seems like probably the easiest
But
step.
The question with step one is know your values. Would back me to ask, how do I know my values?
that's I said this, and in theory this sounds like the easiest part, but it's actually probably the hardest part. Like it reminds me of that quote from I ever heard that quote from Einstein. They said he was like, if you gave him an hour to solve a particular problem or challenge or whatever, and present a solution, he said I'd spend the first 5 minutes, defining the problem and the right questions to ask, and then I would spend the last 5 minutes, putting together the solution, kind of thing. Like that's kind of step one, right? Like it takes a long time to figure out what you like and what you don't like, and what you care about and what you don't care about, and what matters and what doesn't matter to you. Like that's hard. That requires a lot of work. So this is not a step to be overlooked at all. I mean, as a matter of fact, this might be the most, like, if it's like Einstein saying, like I'm spending the first, you may only get to be an artist for a certain period of time in your life, or something like that. But maybe you got to spend the first 60% of your life figuring out what you like, before you can actually start to bring your art in the world. I don't know what the timeline is, but the point is you got to know your values first before you can ever start to become a practicing artist every single day, right? And then step two is, I think this is probably the values are just words, and ideas and theories, right? Step two is bringing your values to life. So through your actions you create every single day, through your actions you do every single day, you have to bring those values to some form of a tangible output that you present to this world. A, to confirm that they are your values, and then B, that's how you know that they are of value, right? Is when you bring them to life in this world. Step three, and eventually when you bring those values to life, you'll start to naturally just generate art and stuff. That's when art comes out, is when you bring your values to life, right? So like when I was given that example of the thing back when I was 22 years old and doing that management trainee program, like that was me bringing my values to life at that time in my life, right? I mean, and that's not much different than what it is now, but at the same time, like that was who I was. That's who I've always been. I like to help people. I like to solve problems. I like to look at things differently. I like to see people happy, like and enjoying what they do, and not miserable in their work every single day. I mean, these people were fucking miserable, true. Like, I mean, I can't even, like, it's making me think about it a lot right now. There was a team of 6 ladies in this department. They were fucking miserable. I mean, like I don't know how, there was one guy. There was one guy actually. But they were fucking miserable. So anyway, so that's step 2. Step 3 is to ship it. Like you have to ship something every single day. You have to produce something every single day with your values for you to be a practicing artist. Like I don't, you can challenge me on this if you want to, or you can tell me like, well, what if you did like, 2 months out of the year or whatever, and then you took a break. I don't think so. I think to be an artist, you have to make art every day with your values and by bringing your values to life, and then ship something, right? Like you got to complete something to share to the world. I don't care if it's good or if it's bad or if it's perfect, if it's not. Like you have to send something out into this world for you to be a practicing artist every single day, in my personal opinion, or at least the majority of your life, 90% of your life. And then step 4 is rinse and repeat every single day. I mean, like that's it. Like, I mean, it's it just do it over and over and over again. Make it a habit of bringing your values to life and ship an art. Bring your values to life, ship art. Bring your values to life, ship art. Bring your values to life, ship art. And eventually, that's when you become an artist. So anyway, yeah, I'd love to get your thoughts.
Yeah, so I would like to challenge you on your steps, because like I don't think you need to ship anything.
Yeah, you do.
And well, let me challenge you on that.
Right.
Because for me is I think these steps, in a way, it's required in my view anyway. It's more of an effort than I would like to see it. I think step 1 is probably the hardest. It's the most simple, but it's hardest. But for me, I think I can reduce it into 2 steps. The first one is step 1. I agree with step 1. You have to know your values. And this is very simple, but not easy. It could take, somebody 90 days, like we have the core values quest. So we do have some guided self exploration for you to do step 1. And a lot of people see benefit in step 1, right? And including you, including me, including the people we mentor, maybe coach through the 30 days journey, right? And for you and I, right, we did it on a unofficial level, meaning like you and I were just like stumbling around in the dark, but we did pretty much similar thing, is to trying to
for sure
figure out values, and we have done it, and I feel like I know my values. I know what I want.
I think it's a lifelong thing, to be honest with you. I don't think it's just like a certain period. I mean, I think it's a lifelong
right. So I think that's step 1. Step 1 is, to me, I agree with you. We both agree on step 1.
Okay.
To me, right, and to me, the rest of them, it's going to be combined into one more step, which is you have to do an action that aligns with the value. And to me, like you say, well, let's take you for example. When you say I live for 2, what does that mean? What action do I do?
How do I do that? Yeah, right. Yeah.
To live for 2, right? So when you do that action, because in physics, in the world we live in, every action has a reaction.
Right.
So there's no need for you to ship anything, because that in itself is the ripple of the in the pond that you mentioned, right? So to me,
let's clarify one thing. When I say ship it, like I'm not actually meaning to the world has to see it or something like that. I'm saying you have to produce something.
No, that's a step 2, which is you do an action. Anything that you do is an action towards that aligns with your value. To me, that's step 2.
Yeah.
Because for me, that automatically that would create a ripple effect to whoever is going, because somebody's going to get affected. Like we said yesterday, that being you're going to impact somebody tremendously. That when you think about it, looking back at Amelia, did she say, I'm going to fucking ship this thing?
Okay.
Right?
But
the thing is, I'm saying she didn't ship anything. She just know who she wants to be and the kind of person she is. And being herself, Clubberny was born. You have these 2 hardcore believers in Clubberny because of that. She didn't ship shit. She didn't need to.
Well, I mean, she did. And No,
she didn't. No, but I'm saying, I'm
just
just
her
saying is
presence.
her presence and the way she does things, her action, that action automatically in itself is already the process of shipping. Because when you throw a rock in the pond, the ripple will create and it will cascade.
Right.
And so
that's what I'm saying though, is you have to throw a rock in the pond each day.
yes, but the thing is, that's all you have to do is you don't have to say I'm going to throw a rock in the pond, then I'm going to make a ripple. It's redundant.
All right. That's a fair point. Actually, it's funny you're saying all this because the first thing that I thought when you started talking about this was Steve Jobs' book. Because I just finished this, and he and I just wrote a reflection about this actually. Ironically, he used to always say, make it simpler, make it simpler, make it simpler, make it simpler, make it simpler.
That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing.
Right.
Because
So
you don't need to worry about you. The thing is, when you took a step, it's the things that we have to do. Anything that's automatic, there's no need for you to say, I'm going to make a ripple, because so the action is throw a rock in the pond, right?
Yeah.
That automatically creates a ripple.
Yeah.
That automatic affects the things in the long run.
Throw an intentional rock in the pond. Like, I mean,
well, I'm just
because you could throw a rock in the pond. Everybody throws.
But no. I'm just making an example of the rock in the pond, and the action is automatic. Because for me, when you do an action, that's automatic. There's no need for you to redundantly say, I'm going to throw a rock in the pond to create a ripple, because it's already understood.
I can dig it.
Right. And so to simplify the actions because the thing is, you and I have been doing this for almost 3 years, coming up in August, 3 years. Okay. So you and I have a lot of background information, and it's easy for us to understand what we're saying. But if you want to give somebody who is totally new something simple to follow, right, you need to do step one. And step one, we have the core value quest to help you with it. I know it's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy, but we have that for you. Step two is all you have to do. So I'm condensing it into 2 steps. That way, anyone can follow it. Versus, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. And no, you gotta do is
I guess that's
find out your core values. And the thing is, when you say step 4, is when you find your values, right? The value that really aligns with your core values, it will be addictive. There's no need for you to repeat it, because you want to repeat it.
All right.
You're addicted. So I'm slashing 3 and 4 and kind of wrap it up into number 2. So basically the other things are automatic. You don't have to do, because the thing is, when you say, okay, because the core values, one other thing we have to understand is the core value is going to give you a feedback loop, right? Let's say I want to be, integrity. I want to be honest, whatever. And I try to be honest. I don't feel good about it. I'm not going to repeat it. Right? Because it doesn't align with who I am. But if I'm, for example, you and I, we love to get into trouble, right? So that's something I ain't going to leave it to someone else to do. I say, I want to do that myself, right? That's addictive to me, because that core value aligns with me. But for other people, like that core value doesn't align. When they do that, it doesn't give me the reward I want. And so you're going to stop. So that, to me in itself, it's going to have this loop, this viral loop. That it's going to, because the thing is, when you do something that is so rewarding for yourself, it is actually going to multiply, and it's create this viral. It's going to continue on and make bigger and bigger. Because the thing is, you look at like all the nuances of the thing that you're good at, whether that's tennis or whatever, of the thing that you've done, it actually leads up to the next step. Because without the foundation, you cannot have the insight. You won't have the insight to pick up to the next next insight, next learning, next rung of the ladder. So for me, that in itself it's given. There's no need to say, hey, you have to do this.
It's funny. I mean, like I said, this is an evolution. Like this whole entire journey is an evolution. Even
You're frozen again. Still there, Chris? I guess he's having a technical difficulty. Chris? I guess we'll wait for him to come back. Maybe his computer's broke.
That's
okay. So we're
yeah.
back. If his computer decides to give up on him, so I guess you're on your phone.
I told you, like before we started this one, my computer was acting like crazy, and it just like I don't know, it's not even connecting to the internet or something right now. So you were, I was saying something here. Let me need to put my headphones into this. No, I was saying before that dropped. You make a really good point. Like this whole entire thing has been an evolution, right? And even my own writing, I changed my own opinion a few months later with my own thoughts. So to your point about making it simpler, the book Made to Stick, the reflection that I wrote for that one was profoundly simple, right? Like when you have something that like that and this goes back to that Nassim Taleb quote too of it takes anybody can understand something, but it takes a master to write something. Like it takes a long time, like a lifetime to focus on a particular topic and thing and idea to make it profoundly simple, right? This reflection wasn't profoundly simple enough, and to your point, like it's it wasn't there yet, and that's okay. Like it's an evolution. Like this is my point about shipping. Like it's like I wrote what I wrote when I wrote it, and I'm not gonna be, I'm not gonna say that I wasn't in the ballpark, but I think we get better at it, right? And we make it more profoundly simple.
I think you have a point. It's just that I think that it's already in motion when you do step 2, because whenever
I agree with
you when you perform an action that aligns with your core values, the other things are the effect of the actions in step 2,
right?
And they are not, but it's I think you have a point in terms of I guess bring it out so you can understand, the audience can understand what you mean. But in essence, the because the thing is, when we create step 1 and step 2, we're going to create a very simple step, and these simple steps are not easy per se, because like I said, step 1 could take a lifetime, and it probably will be, right? It will take a lifetime because your values will change as you evolve. You change as a person, and your core values will change, and that's the step. But those two are like the yin and the yang, right? Because when you know your values, right, you will do things that align with your values, and when you do things with your values, that changes the values, and the value changes the action, and action changes the value, right? That's the yin yang, and like I told you, when you on a track, you run, ahead and I run behind. But the thing is, I'm asking you, who's ahead and who's behind? In a track, we're both ahead and we're both behind. And so when you look at these steps, that creates the perfect loop, because the values for it influences the actions of aligned value. The action you do is going to say, well, I thought I was very, honest, whatever, I feel like I didn't like doing that. So it changes your value. And then when so
Right.
you there's a cycle of it. And then and when you say, okay, I picked a value, I think this value is something I like, and you start doing them, and you may have another feedback. So that could create this loop. Number three, number four are the effects of how you perceive and observe this cycle, this loop, this viral loop that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
I
And
mean,
so these are
it's yeah,
annotations in a way. So
right.
to me, it's still valid
It's
in
an
terms
outcome.
of
It's a
the
byproduct. Yeah.
diagram that you're drawing. But I'm just merely saying, these are extra annotations of the cycles, right? Because you wouldn't put it
Right.
into the cycle. You say, hey, I'm describing the cycle, and this cycle has this effect. So, like you say, we are evolving in the steps you put together. But for me, to your point, is that it's easier, much easier to understand something, but it takes a mastery to write it. And you wrote it, right? You wrote it, and for me to critique it, it's standing on shoulders of giants. I mean, meaning I didn't have to come up with it. I'm just saying, okay, I
Right.
saw this from a new perspective. So it's not to say that there's not a lot of thought to put into it. You put a lot of thought because that, like I say, the understanding allows you to pen down these steps. And for me
Right.
to look at it and say, oh yeah, but I had an easy job, right? For me to go there.
Well, so that's fair. My brain goes back to, though, the idea. I've heard this from many other people, and there's something to this. I don't know where this fits into the equation, but like there's something to it. Like the idea of like real artists ship. Like like I agree with what you're saying in theory of like living your values and bringing it to life every single day is shipping. But I'm talking about something.
Because
Well, I guess it's the same thing.
I truly
It's
believe
the
that
same
there
thing.
is
Yeah.
a
Yeah, I think it's the same thing.
a core genes in the human DNA that we are compelled to share it, right? And to me that is given because that's part of our physical metaphysical existence. We cannot exist by ourselves. Like you and I cannot exist by
It,
ourselves. That's human
it,
nature. And so like I told you again, I asked you again many times ago, if you have $1 trillion, but you cannot tell anyone about it, and you cannot like do things that will give it away that you're a trillionaire, right? Think about that concept. Think about that situation. It's going to drive you insane because you need to
yeah,
share
it's like, what's the point?
whether whether you verbally sharing it or you sharing it by helping somebody, some pool, whatever. You have the
Right.
power now, right? That is called sharing. You are compelled to do that, and that's
Right.
human nature. And yes, if you're talking about different species, then yeah, you may have to point out that hey, you got to ship it, but
Right.
because it's already human nature. Because when I say I'm going to throw a rock in a pond,
Right.
by what we understand, we know that gravity exists. Therefore, it's going to hit the pond and then go down and create a ripple. That's a physics. That's something that is already inherent. And to my point of having the ability, the sharing aspect, that's inherent to human nature. So there's no
Right.
need for you to do things that's already done automatic. When we
So
put down a step, we say these are things that you need to put an effort into to create and prime the system and make the cycle churn.
if you produce meaningful work every single day, but that meaningful work takes, but nobody else gets to see that meaningful work.
But
The byproducts,
it will not
the
be.
byproducts.
My point is because will not be meaningful work unless you share it. That's part of the meaningful. Because thing is,
this is what I'm saying is like you have to ship something. Like you have to share it. Like, I mean,
no.
sharing.
You don't have to ship it. You don't have to share it. It's
If you
you're
want to be an
compelled to
artist,
share it already. There's no need for you to make a mental note to share it because by you want to have something meaningful, it cannot become meaningful unless it's completely shared. Okay, you
This
cannot
is
say
true. Yeah.
I found
I
something
agree.
great.
Yeah.
Like you talking about the fisherman and the boy, right?
Right.
I mean, the thing is, these guys understand each other, and this epic battle
Yeah.
against this fish, right? He wants to share because without sharing it, it wasn't meaningful work. It was just exhaustive work. It's not complete.
So
That's
my
part of the inherent
I,
of
yeah,
our nature.
I just completed. I just finished the inner game of tennis again today.
Hmm.
And immediately after I did that, I sent it to my little cousin who's 12 years old and going in, or 13 years old and going into high school next year.
Hmm.
Um, uh, she's the one that I coach tennis every once in a while, and she's playing, she's getting better. She's getting ready to go into high school, so I know she's probably going to play in high school and stuff like that, right? And I immediately sent her this book. I sent her a text to her and her mom, my aunt, and I was like,
Hmm.
Elizabeth, you need to read this book. I was like, it's like having it'll be a game changer for her at that age to like understand, you know, why she's playing tennis and how to win the inner game of tennis. That my point being, like, immediately after I finished that book, I was like, I need to these are great. This is great knowledge for me, but I was like, I need to share this with my cousin. And then not only that, I was like, next month I'm having the whole team read the inner game of tennis, because like there's so many. It's not just about tennis, right? It's about so many other things. And I was like, I'm gonna have my whole entire team read that book, because I want them to understand, like, how to get the fuck out of their own way, and just feel right,
Hmm.
and intuitively bring their art out of the stuff that they care about, right? Like let their system one do its thing, and I want somebody else to give them that message that was beautifully written. But I want to share that, like, right, and I want them to, then I want to share that, and I want to help them, so like for me this is meaningful work for me, because this is a part of what I do every single day. But like the first thing that I thought of was like, I have to get this, I have to get this out to
Exactly.
other people,
You
right?
are compelled. Otherwise,
Right.
it's like
It's like, what's the point? I mean, who
it
cares
doesn't
if I
feel
know?
right. It
Right?
doesn't
Yeah.
feel right for you. Say, right?
Right.
Well, I have to have this urge. Otherwise, there is a weight on my shoulder. So
Yeah.
you think that's inherently part of human nature. That's what I'm saying is, yes, if you talk to an alien species who don't have that human nature, then yeah, you may have to say, hey, you have to make an effort of mental note to ship it, blah blah. But for us, you cannot do step one and step two without
Right.
also doing step three and four. You just can't do it.
I agree. You sold me on this one for sure. So I agree. But I think my profoundly simple conclusion of the year of magical learning was, know your values and bring them to life. Like that was
Right,
that was the
right,
profoundly simple solution.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is
Like
because you
like
think
that's
about
it.
it.
Yeah.
If you do those things, all the things that you are annotating is automatic. It will come. You cannot. You cannot.
Right.
It's. I mean, you cannot avoid it. It's
Right.
unavoidable if you do that two simple things.
And like I
Everything
think
that
that and that's the point of the whole simplicity, right? I think anybody can understand, oh yeah, I know what a value is, and yeah, I do need to bring those to life, like, and like you could save yourself 365 books if you just thought about that. You know what I mean? Like it's like Apple, with an iPhone, where they're like, oh
right,
yeah, like this all just makes sense,
but the thing is,
like,
the thing is, if you tell me those two things, right? If I know nothing about copy, I know nothing about what Christian True does. I can remember what you said. Know your
yeah,
values and bring them to life, right? That's a simple catchphrase, a simple bumper sticker, like Matthew
yeah,
McConaughey say. It's like we would say meaningful leadership, the Ironman
right,
downhill, the wonderful train. These things are the profound saying, profoundly simple saying that if I need to perform that, I can basically use that as a point of reference to understand more and more, and use that as an anchor to continue to
right,
figure out what is it. Okay, know my values. How do I do that? This is then you're going to go to the you
right,
know what you're looking for. You're gonna
right,
explore, but you know what you're looking for. But if you don't know what you're looking for, even if you step on it, it's under your nose, you won't recognize it. So it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter how long you do something or whatever. You will, I mean, what's a chance? What's the probability of finding something that you don't know what you're looking for, but you have something you look for? Then
Right.
to you, like, you will see it. You will recognize it when you see it. That's my point,
Right.
right?
Right.
And
I
so
agree, yeah.
having that, even if I don't understand it yet, and I don't have the background information as this two person, eventually I can get to that level because I have an idea of what am I looking for, right? And so that's why for
Agree.
me, I love that saying, I don't run for train. I mean, if I say that to somebody next to me,
It's like a wormhole. It's like a wormhole. Like you literally, you say it and you like you're like transported down a wormhole of like 500 million different things of what that means to you. But like,
exactly.
but it's like a trigger, to go take you down that thought. Like it's like your myelin in your brain, the neural pathways are like start to just fire. You're like, oh yeah, I know what that means, and like, and then
Mhm.
and then everything just starts firing, right? Like that's what a profoundly simple message does, right?
And
It's
exactly.
it's a trigger to reminder, to like, I mean,
I mean,
this inner game of tennis book. I mean,
that's
just finish
that.
it. I mean,
And then
it's a
today, yeah, we need to pen that down as the new profound saying that Chris, the criticism is, know your values and bring it to life. That's, to me, is profound. I love it. I love the way that sounds too. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah, I mean, that's how this whole journey concluded.
Right? Because
That
the thing
was
is,
the
you can
that
say
was
that to
the
me.
we're ruining it. We're ruining it on.
You can say that to me,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
Versus say, hey, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Say, what's step 2? What's step 3? It
You're
isn't.
right.
You know what I mean? But you say that to me, like, don't want for train. Oh, I got it. Know your values
Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
bring
that
to
makes
life.
sense. Yeah.
You
Uh,
just
right.
these steps,
Get
even
out.
those 4 steps.
You're if you think of like the inner game of tennis, it's the general message is like, get out of the way of yourself, basically. Stop thinking, like, like it just let your elephant be your elephant. Whatever the word is you want to say to that, like, I mean, like that's the general message of that entire book. It's like,
Yes, exactly.
get the fuck out of the way, get yourself out of the way of yourself. And you're like, that doesn't make any sense, and you're like, well, no, but it totally does if you really think about it. It's like you have we don't have to go down
But
this
the thing
road,
is
but
that's the
yeah.
catchphrase that you will remember, because you think about, hey,
Right.
Unfuck yourself. Well,
Right.
I don't know what I mean, but I remember it is, and I can continue
Right.
to explore that, right?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like, let your elephant be your
Or
elephant, right?
or
What
the subtle art of not
it
giving a fuck. I mean,
exactly,
that
like,
guy. Yeah, yeah.
because it's something that it catches, and you yourself will remember what it is as the
Yeah.
point of reference. And then you can say, well, I don't really understand what that really means. Let me look into it and figure it out. Because you know what you're looking for. My point is, once you have that catchphrase, right? You say, well, I don't really understand it right now, but I remember it, right?
Right.
But because I remember it, I can use that as point of reference and continue to discover and find out what it is. Because if you don't,
Right.
doesn't matter how simple something is. You can say, hey, there's 4 steps, but I don't remember all the steps. But if you tell me, hey,
No, I agree with you.
I think
Yeah.
this is the way our brains work, right? You're talking
Right.
about in the past, your brains it thinks in pictures, it doesn't think in words. And so
Right.
you can
Yeah.
communicate
I mean,
using
and
a different
honestly,
communication channel.
this is exactly what this book is about. Like the inner game of tennis is about in a lot of ways. It's like you can give. I think he said this in the book too that I loved. He was like, I could give as an instructor the same message to a class of 10 people, and that same message will be interpreted 10 different ways by 10 different people. It's not like everybody internalizes things the way that they internalize it, and like, I think one of the things that he talks about all the time is like, almost everybody knows what they're doing wrong. Like, you don't need a professional coach to come in and say, your swings, your back, on your backhand, your racket's too high, before you start your backswing or something like that, right? Like, and they'll go, yeah, I know my back. I mean, like there's not a chance in the world that you could sit here and tell me like, hey, Chris, on your serve, your toss is too high. Yeah, I fucking know my toss is too high, but like, yes, I know. We all know what we do wrong, right? But like, the problem is how do you fix it? And that's get out of your own fucking way, and that's the general message of all of this stuff is like, you could give me 500 instructions as to how to make my ball toss, better, at a different strike zone for the ball. Like all it does is fuck my body up. Like in my mind up. Like what I need to do is just stop thinking about it and just fucking throw the ball up and go hit the ball. Right? I mean, it's not that hard. Just let your body be your body. Do its thing, and it's done it a million times. But like, you start to think about stuff, and it gets all kinds of crazy. Like I was playing pickleball tonight, and we were rocking and rolling playing pickleball. And honestly, I wasn't thinking about a single thing the entire fucking time. Like, I mean, I was just, the only thing I was thinking was, it's so hot out here. Like, I mean, that was the only thing I was thinking. It was like, oh my God. After every point, I was like, holy shit, I'm hot, and then I'd get back and I'd play the point and I'd go, holy shit, I'm hot, but like, I mean, it's like, I didn't think anything the entire time because I don't really care about pickleball. Like, that's the funny thing is like I don't really give a shit, if I'm good or not at pickleball. And ironically, like I was gonna actually tell you this in on an aside conversation, but I mean, I love tennis. I've been playing it my entire life. I actually think I may be like better at pickleball. And I don't mean like better as in, I mean competitively better. I think that there's like, I think if I actually really, really, really tried to focus on pickleball, like seriously focus every single day, I think I would have a potential to be like an extremely high level player. And I'm already getting close to that and playing it casually, and it's effortless too. Like, I mean, I don't really try very hard at all in pickleball. And that's the whole point. It's like, you shouldn't be trying really hard in tennis, like you should, whatever you're doing, you shouldn't be trying so damn hard.
When it's your art, when it's your art, right? That's the way you should feel. It's like, I'm not trying it, I'm so good at it, right? Like you're describing pickleball, like it's like that's the way that if you found your core value and things that align with you, it is so effortless. It's like, eating cake every day. And you think about it, if you have to struggle, chances are I'm pretty confident that's not your core values. Because when it's your core values, regardless of how hard it is from an outsider observer looking in, it is so easy for you. I mean, it doesn't matter. And that is what your core values mean. It's like you are in tune with that element. You in tune with that game. You in tune with that, whatever that you do, that is your core value. You will know it when you see it. Because you will feel it when you do it, right? That's why my actions that align to core values is addictive. Don't you say it's addictive? Because
I mean, true.
You're sweating and you're complaining, and you're still going there. And you're sweating that part.
I would still be out there right now if I could. I mean, like I was like, I mean, I was starting to actually hurt, and like I told you, I ran earlier this morning like I normally do, and I actually played some tennis in the middle of the day because I had some extra free time. And then I played pickleball at night, because my wife had my son, all night long at some ice cream social that she was doing at her school. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll go play. Anyway, but like I think you're just so spot on. Like, and it's actually like that's when art comes out too. It's almost like comical to me, the whole pickleball thing, because like it's such an easy transition for me from tennis to pickleball. People see me play, they literally stop and say like, wow, like that's how are you doing that stuff? And I don't know the answer to that. Like, I'm like, this is just what I do.
Because
like,
you're asking the rider and the elephant's doing the work. So how do you know? That's the thing. The communication between a rider and the elephant is through a special channel of communication, a different language. It's not the language that the other person is asking you. The other rider is asking one rider, say, hey, how's your elephant can do this? Say, Well, I'm sitting on the back of elephant and he just moves.
Right. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm like, there's like, this is, you're right. Like, I don't know how I do it, to be honest with you. I don't really care anymore. Like, I just do it. Like, I hit the ball harder in pickleball. This is not how pickleballers play. Like, pickleballers were taught how to play as it's a dinking game. It's more patience and more strategy, and that's fine. I'm learning how to put in other nuances to the game. But I hit the ball really fucking hard, and I hit it with a lot of pace and a lot of spin on top of it that brings it back down into the court. That I've never seen anybody that hits the ball harder than me, like in pickleball ever. I mean, and I'm not saying like I've only played pickleball a few times or something like that. I've played pickleball many times with many different people. I've seen a whole lot of different people play. I've never seen anybody that hits the ball anywhere near as hard as I do. So the funny thing is when people see me play this way, they literally stop and they're like, "How the fuck are you doing this?" Like I don't know. No, people don't play like this. And I'm like, this is how I've hit tennis balls my entire life. Like this is effortless for me. As a matter of fact, it's even easier because the ball is super low. Like whereas in tennis, I'd have to hit it above my shoulder all the time because somebody else is hitting a lot of spin. So like I'm getting to hit balls that pickleballs don't bounce very far. So like I get to hit ball. I'm pretty small. Pickleballs don't bounce very far, and I get to hit a lot of spin on top of the ball and come over, from down low, and it just rockets off, and people are like, "What the fuck is happening?" And they just stop and stare at my shot, and they're like, this is insane. Like this guy we were playing tonight, he was like, you have like a howitzer of a fucking, ground strokes. And he's like, I mean, it was like, it's unreal. Like, and they, the funny thing is they all, after all these pickleball players, quote unquote, play against me, they're like, well, when you play against the really good people, they're going to punish you for that. You can't play that way. And I was like, fucking try me. I played against good people too. It's not like they can't hit the ball as hard as I can. Fucking, I'd love to see me try to hit my own shot. Like, I mean, I'm not saying they're not going to get it back in or anything like that. It's just like,
it's hard.
I'm sure they're not going to do anything with it, and I'll have the advantage in the point, Anyway, my point being is like, these are things for me. Like I this is all effortless for me. I'm not even trying.
That's the term that people use a lot. It's called natural. When you're natural, it means that is you yourself, who you are, aligned with that particular actions and
it's fun. I love it.
Whatever.
I love playing that way. Like I don't like playing patient and slow. Like I like hitting the ball really fucking hard at people and see what happens next. And then I'll hit it harder again. Then I'll hit it harder. And then I'll hit it harder. And then and see what happens. Like it's the anti pickleball way. Like the pickleballers are like they immediately want to get into this dinking game. Like they immediately want to jump into this dink world. And I'm not saying they're wrong. To be crystal clear, I'm not a strategy expert of pickleball yet. Like that is something that I need to get better at, right? But like from a shot making perspective, and there's stuff that I can do on the court that I've never seen anybody else that I've ever played against, be able to do these things, and it's easy.
Right. So to me, it's like a natural talent, and imagine you can combine that talent with the skills, like that's
the strategy,
deadly combinations.
Exactly. Right? That's why I'm saying is like I'm more naturally talented in pickleball than I am in tennis, actually, and it's because of the nature of the way that the ball bounces and my size. Like it's bizarre because you're
the right DNA patterns that is aligned with pickleball. And tennis, you probably need your physical stature probably as optimal in tennis as would you in pickleball. Like you probably like an 8 or 9, an 8 in tennis, but you're probably a 10 in pickleball because the pickleball has it. Yeah, so that's why it's, even though tennis it's pretty fitting for you, but pickleball is even more fitting. It's like perfectly fit. Just like the example
the problem
I give you is like the corn slide, right? You can put in a quarter, right? That's perfectly fit, and it's the right size. You put in a dime, you can put in a nickel, it still will go in, but it's not the perfect fit. But when you have the perfect fit, everything jives. And to me, this is what I want to call art, because when you are in that zone, when you do what you are good at, meaning natural for you, that's what your body and the DNA and all these things that make who you are aligns. That's addictive, and that is a cycle that continue to go on and on. And it's going, not only that it's a cycle, but it's a spiral upward because you the more you play, the better you play. The better you play, the more rewarding you feel. So you think about it. It's not a circle. It's actually a spiral.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh,
from the top looking down, it looks like
yeah.
a circle, but on the side it's going up, right? Because it's actually pushing it up for each of these elements to kind of play on itself.
I rarely if I'm playing doubles in pickleball, I mean you're right. Like if I'm playing doubles in pickleball with a partner that I know and can trust, like I rarely lose. When I'm playing singles, I rarely lose. Like on my own, you know, like these are like it's almost like so like it's almost like comical, honestly, like of how much it I'm actually like fighting becoming a pickleball player because I'm like I don't want to be a pickleball player. I don't have time for it. Like I mean,
but
like,
then you still drawn to it.
I,
That's my point. Is you are so drawn to.
I am.
You cannot fight. You are trying so hard to keep yourself away from it. This is called addiction. When you are addicted to something, it's like you don't have to repeat shit. It's gonna call on you again and again and again. It's like
I know. I mean, I'm not gonna.
You imagine a piece of cake in the refrigerator. Hey, True, look, it's cake. I'm cake. I'm right here. Eat me.
I know,
it's
man.
Not like
and I when I do eat it, I like it better and better, but I also. It's a complicated relationship because I'm like to want to dedicate myself. Okay, so like this month I did 30 days of tennis, right? You know, is my monthly challenge. Like I loved it. I've loved every minute of it. I've had a great time. Like, I don't know if I'm ready to get that kind of a love relationship going on with this other. That's a lot of time commitment. You know what I mean? Like that's like the other thing about being an artist.
Calling is a calling.
Choosy, you know,
a calling is a calling. You have no choice. It's not like the calling gonna stop, right?
I don't disagree with you.
Like I mean, you can imagine like simplify the hey, there's a calling in the forest, right? It's not like you remember in Elsa #2, Frozen 2, this calling like it's like it doesn't stop, right? It just doesn't stop. It's like okay, you know, I get it, stop, but it doesn't stop until you go to it. That's my point. It's not like you have any willpower over it.
I know.
It's gonna continue to call you. That's why we call it a calling. So you control the calling. The calling is on its own.
What I don't disagree with you at all. I think what I love the most so far in my pickleball playing days has been when I walk onto a court with my cheap shitty racket or paddle. They call it paddles. I don't know any of the jargon. I don't play the same way that everybody else plays. And I beat the people. I just whoop people that are the quote unquote best people there in that community. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, and then they want to give me lessons on how to be better at pickleball, you know, like, and they're like, well, man, you'd be so much better if you could just do that. Yeah, right. Everybody always gives me this. It's the same thing over and over again. Of like, you know, you really gotta learn the dinking game. You gotta really learn this. You gotta, you're gonna be so good. You got every shot besides that, you know. And you gotta
learn how to lose.
Right. Like, they're like that works at a lower level, but not at the bigger levels. And I'm sure they're right. You know, I'm not don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to get better at this other stuff. It's just that like this is the other thing is you only ever have to get better at something when somebody else forces you to get better at something, right? So if I play somebody that literally does have a neutralizer,
and this is why I call spiral up because you're not gonna enjoy playing with people that cannot even challenge you a bit. So you're gonna find the people that it's going to hey. I am at least your level or better. I'm going to beat you, and you going to say, "Well, I enjoyed this level," because I can tell you, you can go, "Hey, go play with a 3-year-old." Right? You can beat him or her every single time, but it's boring for you. Even though you love tennis, it's boring for you because that's why this is spiral upward because you cannot stay in the same place, same level.
Yep. I mean, and that's the thing is like that's the one thing that I've enjoyed most about pickleball actually is there's always so many people playing that I get to meet hundreds of different pickleball players every time I go play pickleball, which is it's so different than tennis because it's just not the same thing. Like you're never going to go into an open court
people just playing for fun, 100 people playing tennis for fun. Like that's not how tennis works. It's I wish it did, but that's just not how it works. Like you have to like you like I don't know. I don't. We don't need to get into that whole entire thing. But like my point of what I was getting at with that is because the way that pickleball does work is so community based. There's so many players to play against. Like I've been able to test myself against a lot of different people in a lot of different games and a lot of different situations. You know, and I think, you know, the one resounding message I keep getting back is like, I'm really good at this in comparison to everybody else that I play, you know, and that makes me, I'm intrigued by the idea of like, okay, what if I did go find like, you know, people that are more semi-pro, pro
the
level
thing
players,
is,
you
when
know,
this is what I'm saying is, whenever you get to that level, right, you gonna have to struggle. The hero's journey for you
oh yeah,
is to find the person that is high enough level for you to play with. This is why when you look at a martial artist, right, he is so good at what he does. He is so bored with everybody. He yearns to find a worthy opponent. You look at all the movies you ever seen, right? He is yearning to find a worthy because that's is what gives him the thrill. And so that's what I'm saying for you is when
that may be what I'm missing.
Because right now, right, you new to pickleball and you are beating people 11 right, you're gonna have a problem very soon. Which is
I already do have a problem. I think this is one of the reasons. I think you just hit the nail on the head of why I'm not like, I know whenever I walk down to the courts, you know, at all the different local places that I can play at, you know, where there's a lot of people playing, I know that I'm going to be, if not the best player there, one of the top 2 or 3 best players there, you know, every single time that I walk onto any of these courts. And that's not fun. Like, I don't want to be like when you're the smartest person in the room, you know, it's not like you don't play sports to always beat people. Like you play sports to challenge yourself. So like, I think that's the other thing.
And that's human nature.
I'm not challenged, you know,
that's human nature though. Human nature is like when you're in your art, you always wants to go upward. And because of that aspect of not having the reward for you to beat somebody, like completely wipe them out, it's not fun for you. Like I said, you're gonna play tennis against a 3-year-old. I guarantee you, it's like
I would never do that.
Right.
right.
But and then if you gain more skills and get higher level, you want to play the guy above you. That's the human nature. And
I actually haven't found that.
And so if you start to play 3-year-olds all the time, you're gonna get to the point where you're so bored that you may give up the sport. Because there's no point in putting out the effort for so little reward. I don't get
excited to go play. Okay, so like the difference is I enjoy playing, but I don't get excited to go play. When I know that I'm going to play a tennis match against a challenging opponent, it's exciting to me. It's like, oh, I gotta get my mental state right. I gotta get my physical state right. I gotta go, you know, get a good warm up, and I gotta go play. I gotta do a lot of, you know, all the things right. You know, I gotta have a strategy going into it. I gotta think. You know, there's a whole lot of things that go into it for me that are outside of tennis. You know, that engage. Whenever I go play pickleball these days, it's literally I just walk onto the court, no warm up, and just start blowing people off the court, you know, and I'm like, this isn't fun. Like, why do I want to come down
it's not
here just
rewarding,
to beat people, you know?
It's not rewarding. That's what I'm saying is people think that, hey, you know, when somebody's retiring, he doesn't do anything, he want to take the easy route out. No, that's not it. When you are in
it's boring.
Your element, right? You want to be at that center of balance, whatever that level is. You will be in there.
Yeah.
And you wanna stay competitive because I mean the thing is, like I said, you know, it's very I mean, I don't even need to play to know that it will be boring. It's boring now for me to imagine myself playing with 3-year-old when holding a racket. I can't even swing.
right.
You see what I'm saying? So I mean, I don't even I don't even play tennis. And for me, that's already boring, right?
Yeah.
And so that to you, it's like where you have a huge gap. There's you have no interest. That's why I think this is where you're at with the pickleball, because you love pickleball, but you don't want to kind of commit to it because Well,
I've never found anybody that was worth
it-
committing to. Like, I mean, like I've never found the competition that's worth committing to. I mean, if I did, I would commit to it. I mean, if I knew that I
Exactly.
could go get like one really, really, really good match in a week again in pickleball, yeah, I would commit to playing that. I mean, 100%. Like it's always a crapshoot. Like when you go down to these like open play sessions with like 60 people, like you never know who's going to be there, who's not. The people that funnel that filter up to being like, oh yeah, I'm the best, I'm really good, and then you go play them and you're like, you're not. Like that's like what, like who's next, like please somebody like make this interesting.
This comes back to what the interesting topic that we're talking about is, when you do something that aligns with core values, you don't want it to end. Just imagine you say, well, I found this really good guy, right, to play pickleball against, and that's the only guy that is the best in the world. If I beat him, right, that's the end. So for you, it's like, right, well, if I beat him, then it's boring after that. So that's what I'm saying is you want to beat that guy, and then maybe find another guy bigger, better than him, to find another guy better. You want the journey to continue on and on and on, because that's to you. It's worthwhile, because when you're on something, it's not okay. I finished something, I become champion, and I stop. Because if that's your mentality, then that isn't really your core value. You can be good at it.
It's not art. That's not art. Yeah.
Right. So that's why I say, let's say you're competing in swimming or biking or tennis, and you stop because you beat somebody. Well, I think you're just putting willpower into some art that you think that's art for you to beat somebody, and then you say, well, I'm done, right? Because it isn't your calling, because calling doesn't stop. It doesn't stop calling you. So to me, that's what I'm saying is you will, once you understand your values, you will know it when you see it. You would know it when you see it, right? So the calling that you have, you say, well, yeah, this is it. It's supposed to be like this. These are the effects I'm supposed to feel, and these are the kind of things that goes with it. I can't say, well, I'm going uphill. For me, it could see to you as a challenge, but it isn't. As a pickleball player, I feel like you're not challenged at all, even though you are at
I'm not.
at a high level, and people are. People are like working their butt off to get to can we get to your level, right? And they think, hey, this Chris is putting in so much hard work, so much sweat and tears to get there, but in reality, because it's who you are, it's not.
No, I don't even. So I hadn't.
You don't even warm up. You don't even have. You right now don't even do any strategies on pickleball. You just go in there and whack the ball, right? I mean, imagine if you had to do strategies. That means like, hey, that's a whole nother level.
It's a whole nother level. Yeah, I mean, like okay, to put it in context, there was 60 people down at these courts, and one of the quote unquote like premier areas that play pickleball all the time. People come from all over the city to come play at these courts near my house. Actually, ironically, it's right down the street.
You want something the universe can fly to make it happen. Imagine the calling, right? The calling is right next door.
It's so annoying because every time I walk down there, Luca wants to play pickleball, and like I see them all playing down there all the time. And I'm like, well, should I go play? And then I see like, anyway, so I hadn't played in like a month and a half because I play tennis all the time, and it's been a while. So this is on Sunday last week. I told you that was on Monday when I was talking to you about like my this partner of mine that I agreed to go play a tournament with him to see, to because he's really into pickleball, and I was like, okay, well, I'll do it for you. Like that was the only reason why I'm doing this, is I'll do it for you. So we went down to
another element in the universe.
It is.
It is. So you do in your colleagues.
We went down to the courts and we just killed everybody. I mean, we went 10-0, like
I mean 10-0. I mean, it's not even fun. 10-0.
It is fun beating people that want to like step up and be like, oh, okay, we're gonna take you guys down, and then going, nope, you didn't, nope, you didn't, nope, you didn't, like that. But that eventually was fun, gets old. But it does get old. Like beating people gets old. Like you got to like tonight we went to go play. We did actually lose a game, but we lost in overtime. But we went like 7-1 tonight. And that was the first game that we played, the one that we lost, because we I don't know, A, was hot as shit out, and B, like they were actually playing somebody that knew how to play a little bit of strategy. So they played a little bit of strategy on us, and then we quickly adapted and we beat them like 11-1 in the next game or something like that, you know? So anyway, my point being is what I was getting at with this is, you know, whenever we go down I think your assessment is spot on. Like there is zero, I know there's not a challenge for me. Like, I mean, it's like, yeah, sure, I might lose a few games. That's only because I probably wasn't focused, you know, or something like that. Like,
Right.
there was no reason for me to like lock in and engage, you know, on this match, you know, or something like that. Just because it's like, whatever, I don't care. I mean, who gives a shit if you lose against somebody that you're like, I don't fucking care, you know. But
That's
like,
right. You have no interest in playing until you found, oh, he's actually decent, or maybe I should play him, right? And that's the thing is without the interest, it's like you don't want to, you don't even put an effort in until then he start beating you. Then you start to say, well, okay, let's play for real now.
Well,
And
right,
that actually
okay,
elevates
like,
elevates your reward in playing that game in the second game.
That's what it's all about in the first place. Like it's never about, it's about the game. Like, I mean, it's never about like I love playing games. Like I love the game play, right? Like I don't care about like, I don't know. I mean, I love the gameplay. Like,
it's
I mean,
not
like
the outcome. It's not the outcome.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's the game. I mean, it's always the game.
And I think human nature, everybody has the same gene of the same gene. And that gene is like, whatever your core values is, it's going to force you to want to be a spiral upward, right? That means you have to always move your level up to that point before, for you to gain the reward, right? The feeling of it's rewarding for you to continue to play, because let's say you play that person, right? That person is good, and then you have learned a little bit more skills, right? Then to play that person again, your reward drops when you play that game until you find another person better, right? Because you have gained another level. Because to play the same level at you, because if you gain your skills and you play a level and you beat them so easy, then you get you get disinterested.
It's not even disinterested. It's just it makes me say I don't want to play this anymore.
It makes it become boring. It's become boring to you.
It's boring. It's boring. Right. It's astoundingly boring. But all right. We got to put a pin on this one because my phone's about to die. Actually, I'm at like 2% battery, so my computer obviously isn't working.
And yet you say you're exhausted today.
I am. Like son of a bitch. Talk about living your values, like, and it gives you energy. You know, it's like comical.
It's so hard. It's so hard for you to, after an exhaustive day of work and all the crazy that you've done all, and then you're so tired when you pick it on there, and you have to willpower through this YOML to go overtime.
Right. I mean, you're kind. I mean, I know you're joking, but like you're spot on. I mean, like I don't. If you ask me right this second, like like how did we just accomplish what we just accomplished? I don't know. I really don't know. Like I don't know how we just talked for an hour and a half. I don't know how the fuck we did that. I mean, I really don't know, and I don't even care. It went by in a blur, and we're talking about stuff that matters.
Only because you're bad.
It's fun. Well, like actually, to your point, you're a competitor to me, in a good way, of somebody that helps to elevate me to want to get better, and vice versa, right? Like like if you were somebody that was just totally doofus that that was like, oh, well, that I never really thought about anything ever, like that's interesting. No, I think you're right. Like
like I agree with everything, then it's like it ends pretty quick. Like, there's nothing for me to say.
I'm just talking to myself. I don't want to talk to myself. Like I want to talk to somebody else about stuff that matters to both of us, but like to have us both elevate our thoughts around these things. And like you took a look at this thing and you're like, no, you should strip that out, make it simpler, and I'm like, oh, you make a good point. And we ended up having a long conversation about it, So like, I mean, this is the same scenario as like we're talking about with like I haven't found a true in pickleball yet. I know plenty of trues.
A worthy opponent, right? A worthy challenger on the other side. Otherwise, it's not fun. And because imagine, like I did say, if I agree with everything or I have nothing to say, then we would never ever have this kind of conversations. And if I say the same thing you say, then your brain's gonna shut down, say blah blah blah. It's boring. Because for me, it's like, well, I offer complimentary ideas and concept. That's yeah, that's interesting. So your brain stays awake, and it's the time flies whenever you engage and you're in the zone. And to me, once you're in there, that is when you're at your best. And this is what I call art. You are who you
Yes.
are. It becomes art, and you
Yes.
are going to be addicted to your art. There's no need for you to go and say, I need to make a mental note to do blah blah blah, because it's not necessary. It's redundant.
Agreed. All right. Well, I actually literally I'm down to like almost no battery. So all right. Thanks for joining, everyone. And I can't even read the question. It says, "Are you an artist or just producing an occasional work of art every once in a while?" But yeah, thanks for joining, and looking forward to coming back on Monday. Be a fun conversation, as always.
Yeah, sounds good. See you guys.
See y'all.